Welcome to MBA Now. I'm Rob Van Raphorst. Congress is back in session and there's a lot going on related to housing. With us to discuss all of it is our head lobbyist, Bill Killmer. Bill, thanks for coming.
Hey Rob, glad to be here.
Bill, why don't you give us a quick overview of the landscape here in Washington?
Well, no secret that it's a difficult political environment. That's true for the Congress as well as what's happening on the presidential campaign trail. So I think it's probably unlikely that we're going to see action on big ticket housing items like secondary mortgage market reform of the regulatory structure for Fannie and Freddie, and what the successors to those entities might be. Also, I think it'll be tough for the Congress to work on pieces of regulatory reform like tweaking Dodd-Frank or working towards relieving some of the impediments to mortgage credit access in the time remaining this year.
One item that Congress is currently dealing with is H.R. 2121, the Transitional Licensing Act. Bill, why don't you tell the MBA members exactly what that is and where you see that going?
Sure. This is a bipartisan piece of legislation that's passed unanimously out of the House Financial Services Committee in March. And quite simply, what the bill would do would allow you as a mortgage loan officer to leave a federally regulated lending institution and go to work for a non-bank, state-regulated entity and still have 120 days with a transitional authority to originate mortgages. So you could leave your job on Friday, go to work for a new employer on Monday that's state-regulated, and that employer that's sponsoring you will make sure that you've got that 120 days to pass the test, meet the licensure requirements, the registration requirements, but you're still going to be able to work your craft. So we see this as promoting marketplace efficiency in the mortgage market, labor force mobility. It's common sense and something that we think should move to the House floor in the next couple of weeks and be fairly non-controversial. And hopefully, because there are Senate companion pieces that are in several bills, something that we think the Congress can get done before the end of the year.
Another bill that Congress has its eye on is the appropriations for HUD. Where do you see things going in that sense?
Sure, absolutely. And there's been a pattern here with the Congress where they've worked on keeping the federal government open by passing these omnibus funding bills, usually at the end of the year in November or December. I think there will be a lame duck session after the election cycle this fall, where Congress will come back in knowing who's been elected president and who's in control in 2017 of the Senate. Republicans likely to continue to control the House, and they'll work on the budget at that time. But there's already been action in the Senate out of the Appropriations Committee to give HUD its funding for fiscal year 17. We're particularly pleased with that product. It gives FHA more money for IT upgrades and for quality assurance measures that they need funding for to an increased degree. And we think that's a superior approach than by assessing a lender fee based on a lender's FHA book. Also, full funding for Ginnie Mae per their request, $30 billion in commitment authority for multifamily and healthcare programs at HUD. And they preserved a ban on any funds that could be used for the seizure of performing loans that are underwater through the use of eminent domain by a municipality. So we're feeling good about how that's shaping up in the Senate, Rob. The House is likely to start working on its version of that bill, the HUD budget, in committee in the next week or so. And the Senate may actually turn to the bill that passed out of committee on the floor in the next week or so. So good momentum about the HUD budget, regardless of how the Congress, works its timing to get that passed.
We'll leave it there. Thanks, Bill.
Great.
Be sure to check us out on Twitter at MBA Mortgage, or you can like us on Facebook at Mortgage Bankers Association. Thanks.